Okay, so here we are again, guys. This time I'm going to give you a breakdown of the following list I came up with for a warband tournament, which is 2,500 points. And it's a very unusual list. You'll never see a list like this in Ogres. Usually what you see is a regular list, you know, with like bombardiers, mercenaries, cons and all this, but no, not with this one. Because what you have here is a Wildheart, and I'm going to give you the following reasoning behind each of the unit choices and why I chose them and what they're supposed to do, how the list works. Alright? So the way the tournament works is you use hidden lists, so your opponents will not know any of the special equipment your characters have. So I'm going to make full use of that rule, and what we're going to do, we're going to kit out these hunters to the max. Alright? So we've got 2 hunters here in this setup. We've got absolutely no magic, which is one of the weaknesses of this list, but that's okay, because what we're going to do here, we're going to go full rush, alright? We're going to go full rush, full Vanguard, and ambushers. So we're going to try and take the first turn at all costs. So I'm going to start presenting the different units. We'll go ahead and start by the characters. Now we're going to go and start with the General. Now he doesn't have a name yet. I'm going to give him a name eventually. And he is a hunter. Now for the big name, he's going to have the Wildheart big name. He has no choice because it is a Wildheart list after all. And he's going to have an Iron Fist for more armor and parry. I gave him an Ogre Crossbow. Now the 2 hunters will have an Ogre Crossbow because I looked at the different players in this tournament and I know what army they run, and they're not likely to run anything gigantic. So that's my prediction. Therefore I'm not going to run the Hunting Spear. And we're going to take the Ogre Crossbow for extra range. So for special equipment, I gave him the Death Cheater, which is going to give him a 4-up Fortitude and a +1 armor. So in total, this guy will be a 3-up armor and a 4-up Fortitude, alright? Because he's got 2 basic armors, +1 for Iron Fist, and then another +1 for the Death Cheater. And then behind that, he's got the 4-up Fortitude. For his equipment, I gave him the Heart Ripper. Now, I wanted to give him some offensive output, but I couldn't give him paired weapons because I absolutely wanted that extra armor. So we're going to go ahead and give him the Heart Ripper. It's one of the only ones you can take for the Iron Fist. The other one is only for the Shaman, the Ritual Bloodletter. So what the Heart Ripper does is you always hit on a 3-up. It gives you Lethal Strike and an additional instance of AP. So he's going to have a bit more offensive output. And as well, he has the... No, that's it for him. So he is going to go ahead and go with the Yetis, but we're going to go explain that after. We're going to go ahead and move to the BSB. This guy, he's Bogluk. That's his name. His name is Bogluk. And he is a real bastard. And I'm going to explain to you guys, normally his build, what it is you take the big name, very popular right now. You take the big name Trolleater and the Wrestler's Belt, and then sometimes you see the Dragon Staff for an extra breath attack. But we're not going to do that this time. We're going to modify that build a little bit. We're still going to give him the Trolleater for that 4-up Fortitude. But instead of giving him an Iron Fist for a 2-up armor, we're going to leave him at a 3-up armor and say that's okay. And we're going to give him paired weapons, because what that allows us to do is enchant those paired weapons with a special equipment from the rulebook called Supernatural Dexterity. And what that does is that now he's going to be at offensive skill +2 for the Supernatural Dexterity and +1 for the paired weapons. So he's offensive skill 8, and even against defense 4 enemies, he's going to be hitting on 2-ups. So remember all those times when your characters fluff their rolls? Well, not with this guy. He's going to be hitting on 2s most of the time. And that's extremely important because what's his strength? Yeah, strength 6, because the Wrestler's Belt. There you go. He does only have AP2, but that's fine. If we want AP, we're going to go ahead and get this guy to deal with it. Alright? So this guy, remember, he's got offensive skill 8, 5 attacks, strength 6, AP2. For armor, he's going to have a 3-up armor and a 4-up Fortitude. So this guy is a real pain to deal with. And remember, he's leader of the pack because he's got a bigger base. And what that allows him to do is to actually deploy in a unit of Sabertooth Tigers and give the whole unit Vanguard. So what have we done? Well, we're going to fill our core with Sabertooth Tigers, because when you take at least 8 Sabertooth Tigers, they count as core. And each additional Sabertooth Tiger is only 25 points. So when you take them in big units, they become very, very cheap and approach the average cost of 26 points a model. Because the first one you put down is 80 points, next ones you put down 25 points. So what we've done is essentially created a big unit, and then now we're allowed to Vanguard our whole core block and go up. And this is my entire core right here, this block of 18 Sabertooth Tigers. And so we're going to go ahead and explain what these boys do. So a Sabertooth Tiger, essentially, it's a very fast model. So they're going to have Advance 8 and a March of 16. And they're going to have 3 attacks each, which is really important to keep them as wide as possible. But you also do want ranks, okay? So the width of the unit is going to depend on the width of the enemy units. So 3 attacks each, Agility 4, Offensive Skill 4, Strength 4, AP 1. And they're going to be, unfortunately, they're going to have no armor, but they do have 2 health points each. And that's going to be really cool because this whole unit has 36 health points. Yeah. So they are vulnerable to getting flanked. But that's why you got to break units in one turn. That's pretty important, and we got to use our chaff. But I'll get to that. So the Sabertooth Tiger's major weakness is their discipline. They only have a discipline of 5. But that's why this list really works well with the Sabertooth Tigers, because you see the hunters, these boys, they have a rule that they can have commanding presence on the Sabertooth Tigers as if they were the general. So, and because they have discipline 9. These Sabertooth Tigers are almost always going to be within 12 of at least one of these boys. So they're going to be discipline 9. And because he's the BSB, they're going to be re-rolling if they're within 12 of him. So you see how this list is actually starting to materialize? The synergies are actually pretty decent now with this. And remember, the hunter counts as the same size as the wolves. So you got to be able to shoot down most of these wolves before you can even hit the hunter. So against shooting, he's very well protected if he's going in the wolves. Eventually, he will split up to be able to get more board control by covering more angles like this and dodging arcs, etc., etc. So that's what we're going to try and do, is an MSU style with the wolves there, and then we're going to split up. Now the hunters are very fast as well, guys. 14-inch march and 7 advance, and they are swift striding as well. The Sabertooth Tigers are also swift striding. I told you, it's a very fast list. And that's what we're going to try and do, guys. We're going to try and rush and just overwhelm the enemy as fast as possible. So that's it for our core, the 18 Sabertooth Tigers. Because remember, 2,500 points. We got 18 Sabertooth Tigers. That's just over 500 points. Now what the Wildheart does is it allows you to take only 20% of your points as core. So there's our core right there, 18 of them. We're going to move on to the special. Now right here, what we have are the Yetis. And the Yetis are really fast. Again, guys, movement 7 and 14. And they do have Vanguard, just like these Sabertooth Tigers, because remember, this boy is going in those Sabertooth Tigers, alright? So they get Vanguard. They will be Vanguarding as well. And this Hunter, he also has, I bought him Vanguard. So he's going to be riding with those boys, those Yetis, and they're going to Vanguard all together. So the Yetis are pretty glass cannon. They're only resilience 4 and 5 up armor. 3 health points each, but they hit really hard. They got strength 5 AP 2, and they're going to be hitting an offensive skill 4 thanks to their parry weapons, and they break parry. And they do have a nice ability to reduce the enemy agility. So if you get the charge, you get +1 agility, and then you reduce the enemy's agility, you're probably going to be hitting first. And if you're not hitting first, you did something wrong, guys. So that's the story with the Yetis. They are discipline 8, but you know the general's going to be nearby. It's going to be a 9. So yeah, they're pretty hard-hitting unit, but they are vulnerable to damage, fire magic, and shooting. They really hate shooting. So we got to use cover to our advantage and be able to just Vanguard, get into combat as quick as possible. Next unit we're going to have is this lone Sabertooth Tiger. Now you guys already know what the Sabertooth Tiger does, but what's really cool with him is that normally what the enemies try and do, again, they try and kill your chaff by charging with terror-causing models. So they'll charge with the terror-causing models, and then you'll take a test on discipline 5, and then he'll fail and run away, and that will clear the chaff. But this is not going to happen in this list because we've got 2 hunters he's going to be within 12 of at least one of them, so he's going to be on a 9. And if he's within 12 of this boy, he's going to be re-rolling it. Alright, so this is an excellent chaff piece. Now, the only disadvantage is this hunter can only give Vanguard to one of these units of Sabertooth Tigers. So we're going to have the option of deploying in this unit of one Sabertooth Tiger or the massive one, okay, depending on what we feel like doing for that specific game, and that's going to open up options. Now, if this guy gets left behind, for example, we decide to Vanguard this massive unit, then what he's going to do is just approach and stay behind hills and buildings and just try to not die until maybe turn 4 or 5, when we're going to use him at the end game, at the end of the game, when we need that crucial chaff piece to just block a counter charge. That's what his role is. Now, it's very important to protect him against shooting, so even a forest might not even be enough. He's going to have to go around buildings, maybe even around behind the Yetis, because the Yetis are bigger. Or even the hunters, okay? So just this guy has to be protected against ranged. Next element of this list is the 9 trappers. Now these are Scrapling trappers, all right? So you can start to see a theme in this list where we've actually only taken 2 ogres in this list. Now it's an Ogre Con list, you see, but we actually only have 2 ogres, which is really fun, and you never see this kind of list out there on the forums or anywhere else. You never see people building these kind of lists, but I've kind of had this obsession of getting this to work for a while now, and I think it has some potential. So let's stick with these trappers for now. I'm going to explain it. So these boys are like regular Scraplings, but what they do is they have a nifty ability to scout and Vanguard. So this is going to give us a scout ability in our army. It's going to be able to block opposite scouts. And then so they're going to be able to deploy 18 inches away from the enemy. And then they're going to Vanguard 12 inches, but remember, they can only Vanguard up to 12 inches away from enemies. So they're going to be right 12 inches away from the enemy, all right? Now, if we get the first turn, which we're going to try and get at all costs, these little guys are going to be able to march 8 inches. So they're going to be 4 inches away from the enemy. And that's going to allow us to chaff a lot of units, because there's 9 of them. So when you place them wide like this, you can start to see how many units you can block like this. Okay, yes, they're going to die in the first turn, but that's gonna immobilize the enemy for turn 1, and then we're going to get a charge on turn 2. Because remember, units that Vanguard cannot charge. So the whole plan is to charge on turn 2 with these guys, Sabertooth Tigers and Yetis, and these little rascals here, they're going to help us block that first turn so that we don't get charged. Okay, that's the whole point of these trappers. Now, if you're asking me why there's 9 and not 5, because usually you see 5, it's because I only had 60 points left over in my list, and there's nothing in the Ogre book that costs less than 80 points. So what I went ahead and did is add trappers to the unit, because I couldn't add an extra trapper unit because I needed 80 points. So with 60 points, I added just a few trappers, and I think it's not a bad idea because I can block more units and just be wider like this. I'm going to go over the deployment right after I'm done explaining the units, and you're going to see what I mean. Okay, last element of the list is these kin eaters, they're called, all right? And there's 3 of them. Now what they do is that they are unbreakable. So whenever an enemy, if they lose combat to an enemy unit, then they're just gonna stick them there. They're gonna scotch them. Okay, they're not gonna be able to move. And so they're strength 5, AP 2. They have fear, hatred. So they're not going down easily, and plus they have a fortitude of 5 up. And with 3 of them, what we're gonna ambush. They do have the ambush rule, which is really amazing because at this point we're vanguarding with our whole list, and then these guys are gonna ambush on turn 2 and just mop up the rest. So you're gonna start to see what the whole point of this list is that everything is vanguarding. So the trappers are vanguarding, those wolves are vanguarding, the Yetis are vanguarding, those guys are ambushing. I mean, it's just a full rushing list. So I'm gonna go ahead and explain the deployment we're gonna try and do, and then I'll stay tuned. All right. Okay, here I'm back, guys, and I actually, as I was explaining the kin eaters, I kind of realized there's a problem in this list, is that it's actually not legal, and I'm going to explain to you why. So we're playing warband rules, so all the limits, the army limits, are divided by 2, rounding up. So in a 4,500 point game, you're allowed 3 of these boys here, the kin eaters, So normally in the 2,500 points, I would only be allowed 2. So that's okay, because what we're gonna do, I mean, I turned in my list late, so I already lost those points. So what we're gonna have to do is take out one of these guys, and we're gonna replace them with a unit of 2 Yetis. And those 2 Yetis are gonna get behind enemy lines and kind of do the same job as this Keen Eater. The only difference is that they deploy normally and then they Vanguard, okay? But I'm still gonna go ahead and explain the deployment for this setup, because I thought that's the way I thought about it, and it's gonna be interesting. Okay, here we are, we're back, and I've just finished deploying. Now I'm gonna explain what the idea is. So remember, it's a 48 by 48 board. So here, my phone here is the limit on that edge right there, that imaginary limit. So what we're gonna try and do is split up the enemy army. Because our units are faster, we're gonna have to use the edge to our advantage and leave a weak center, and we're going to split up our list, because we don't need to play in a very tight bubble, because of the discipline. Like, the way it works out is he's a general, so anything within 12 of him is discipline 9, and he's got mostly the Sabertooth Tigers, so he's going to be causing the Sabertooth Tigers to have discipline 9 reroll, and then he's going to reroll for the Scraplings right there because he's within. And then he's a general, so if they flee from terror, they have to take a terror check. It's going to be on a 9, and then re-roll from that guy. So this is the way I've set it up, like this. The Scraplings are going to go up in the middle and just block as much as possible. This Sabertooth Tiger is going to go within 12 of Bogluk, that BSB, because that way he's going to be able to re-roll, and he's going to have discipline 9. And he's behind the trappers, because that way he'll get soft cover in case he gets shot at. Now normally you would place him in behind a hill, or maybe a forest or something like that. Here I didn't place any terrain, so this is the way I've placed him, but you get the idea. Place him somewhere like that. You can even mess around with turning him like that. But here I've had my other Keen Eater, and he's going to represent the position of the enemy unit. Now we're going to imagine that they place their unit 12 inches away from their edge. And so the trappers, you can see they're a bit further than what you're allowed because they're scouting. So they're actually going to be 18 away from that Keen Eater. See, like this. You can see that's 18. 18, alright. So we place our scouting first. We go like this. We're going to pretend the enemy unit does not have any scouts or vanguards, because that's the ideal situation that we hope. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do our vanguards with the trappers. Now you can only go within 12 enemy units, so instead of moving our full 12, we're going to move 18 minus 12, which is going to be 6 inches. We're only going to be allowed to do 6 inches, and they're going to end up like that. So we're going to place them like this, following the half-inch rule between them to not cheat, because we don't want to be cheaters. So there we go. Place them up. All right. And we're going to go ahead and Vanguard with these boys. Now they can Vanguard 12. So as you can see, they're going to be pretty much on the same level. They're going to be up here like this. Same with those boys. Move them 12. There you go. Now look how close we are. And if we take the first turn, now it's even more fun, because we get to move these trappers another 8 inches, and we don't need to take a march check because we're 12 inches away. Remember, 12 away. All right. So now we're gonna march 8 inches. Oh, oops, the dog. All right. We'll move that dog later because he doesn't have Vanguard. We're gonna be moving that now. The trappers move 8. There you go, and they're gonna be able to throw their throwing weapons. And their trap rule is, I didn't explain it, but it adds dangerous terrains to any terrain, alright? It's kind of a little bonus rule. It doesn't really do much. It usually just kills one chaff model, and that's it. But it's kind of a cool bonus. Little terrain bonus. Dangerous terrain. So we're going to move them up. Now, these guys, you want to be a bit more careful because you don't really want to get charged, but it depends what can charge it. So if the trappers are blocking a really nasty unit, then you're going to be safe to move these guys up and be able to take a charge, because we can't charge if we have Vanguard, right? So we're going to try and take a charge with this, and we have 3 ranks. All right. So hopefully we're steadfast if the enemies don't have too many ranks or too big of a unit. If they do have a massive unit, you can always split the hunter and the tigers, and you're going to be able to dodge the arc. So what I mean by that is you're going to keep him back, and then you're going to take your hunter and you're going to do something like this out here and try to get out of the arc so that he can get some rear and flank charges later on, and then maybe keep the Sabertooth tigers like this to zone and threaten a counter charge. That's an option you have. And of course the option you have, you always have the option of pushing as much as possible, get right in their face like that, because they have a movement of 16, so you just have so many options when you have a fast unit like this. It's unbelievable. If the hunter splits, he can move 14, and the Sabertooth tigers move 16. All right. Now, if the hunter stays in the unit, they move 14. So you can pretty much go anywhere with this. If you take the first turn, you can go right up the board in one turn. It's just nuts. What we're going to do over here is something similar. I mean, you have so many options, guys. Like, these guys move 14. Look how far you can go now. You're almost at the board edge. You're almost right at the limit of where you could possibly go on the map. So you could do stuff like this. I mean, these guys are all light troops. The hunter's light troops. The Yeti's light troops. I mean, just do something like this or even this, and you get what I mean. These guys are not that great at taking a charge, but if you chaff correctly with the trappers, and you're not afraid of these light cavalry on the flanks, then you can go ahead and push. All right. Now, if you really want to, you could shift the Scraplings over this way to help chaff for the Yetis. If you want to push harder on one side and then put more pressure on the other side where you don't need as much chaff, so you can always adjust the position of the trappers. And it's actually even more beneficial if the trappers are within 12 of the general, because then they're going to be on a discipline 9. Again, we want to help ourselves in case there's a possibility of a terror check, because Scraplings don't like terror checks, so place them within 12 of the general, if possible. Okay, so it's an important aspect to understand. So we have this chaff that is very, very wide and able to just block a lot of units, and the overrun of the units charging the trappers is going to be straight, and it's not going to hit any unit because we haven't put any units behind. So even if they kill the trappers, if they decide to overrun, if they don't get out of the arc of the Yetis and the Sabertooth tigers, we have a really juicy flank charge. And if they decide to not overrun, we can go ahead and charge whatever the hell we want with our 2 big units. So you can start to see the strategic possibilities with such a list of very fast units, and it's just so much fun to play, guys. And I don't know why people don't try this. Now, I haven't spoken about the main disadvantages. We have absolutely no scoring units, so we're gonna we're gonna at least lose the objective, maybe tie it if we can. But you know what? The fact that this list is not competitive at all because you don't have any scoring units, I don't care, because this 9th phase is all about having fun, and when you play with only fast units like this, it's just a blast, guys. So I recommend you try it out if you can. And remember, guys, like for me anyway, playing units of little darts of 3 tribesmen, it's okay, but it's not as much fun because you have to hide them, and then you can only play with them at the end when you want to capture the objective, and that's no fun, guys. We want to use all our models at once, all right? And tribesmen, if you use them at the beginning, they're just core ogres. They just die. So why would you take tribesmen? Take a big unit of Sabertooth tigers and use them, guys. They have a lot of attacks. It's 20 attacks. Strength 4, guys. Strength 4 P1. So that's what I'm saying. Just try stuff out, guys. This game has a lot of options. Even though it may not seem competitive, that's okay. Just try stuff out and have fun, okay? So remember, turn 2, the other ambushers. So we're going to have our ambushers come in from behind like this, and then just start like messing stuff up, really. So we're going to have these hunters running around like this behind, and then this guy can leave the unit because they have good armor and fortitude and everything. So these cowboys can just run around. And now look, we've got 4 individual models in the backfield, and then these units in here on the flanks doing work, and then anything that's in the middle of the enemy, we're gonna just go ahead and ignore it. And if he wants to put his Death Star in the middle, let him do it, and we're just not gonna fight it, and just keep fighting from the sides and the back. So that's the plan for this list, for this tournament. I'm gonna let you guys know how it went. I don't expect any amazing feats with this list, but I'm sure it's gonna be a ton of fun. I'm just hoping I don't get blasted away by magic or shooting too fast, but it's going to be all about the positioning and proper movement and correct choices. So I'll let you know how it goes, especially since we're going to have to substitute one of the Canadiers for a unit of Yetis. So that's going to give us an extra option, an extra possible chaff piece. And so yeah, I'll let you know how it goes. I'll post a list in the description of the video so you can see my idea. And if you have any questions, yeah, don't hesitate to post a comment. All right, see you later.